Welcome back to the Combine. Time for one of the treats of our trip to Indianapolis every single year as we are joined by the draft guru of the Athletic, the author of The Beast, the greatest draft guide in human history, Dane Brugler, on Twitter at DP Brugler. I just found out what the P stood for, Paul. I remembered that. So what a day. We're off to a great start already. How you doing, man? This is like, for you, I feel like this is like you're coming to Disneyland.
Oh yeah, no, this is something. There's so much to gain from this week, and we've been doing this for how long now? I mean,
A long time.
a dozen years ago, I think.
Yes.
Maybe it's probably the first time we sat down here at the combine and talked. But yeah, this is such a important week to the process. It's not just about the 40s and what you learn on the field, but the interview stuff, behind the scenes. You learn
the
more
talk.
at night here. A lot of things going on. You know, scouts are fresh out of meetings, the pre-draft meetings. So maybe kind of figuring out where some of these teams, maybe they're not interested at all in a player. Maybe they're high on a player. It's interesting to match that up with your preconceived understanding of the prospect. So yeah, this is a big week.
All right, what stage is the Beast like written and you just have to fill in some things from the Combine, or where are we at?
Yeah, don't even tell me how many more days are left until the draft because it just gives me anxiety.
No, you got plenty. It's the end of April. You're safe.
No,
you got like 2 months.
The month of March doesn't happen for me because
Yeah.
it's just it's trying to finish it. There's probably 200 profiles just done. You know, they're ready to go. It's just add in the pro day information, combine information, ready to go. But then there's another 200 I want to go, and that's figuring out who are the last 100 that get full profiles, and then the other 100 that are more abbreviated. Because every year,
Sure.
we have 320 players here, and so, but I want to get at least 400. So, who are the next 80 players I need to do? Every year, there's about 35 non-combine guys drafted, making sure those guys are in the draft guide. Hasn't been since 2016, the last time a player was drafted who wasn't in the Beast. So, got to keep that.
Okay, keep that going.
Keep that
We'll
going.
knock out. Gibbe's knocking on wood for you. I like that. So to find those guys, is that based on your relationships with scouts
100%.
around the league? Because they're like, we're talking about this guy.
That the teams are drafting the guys. No matter how much I like a kid from Mount Union, it doesn't really matter. It's who are the teams looking at? Who are they maybe interested in that not really a lot of people are talking about?
Yep.
And maybe it's because of they're from a small school.
Sure.
Maybe it's because they were just something about their profile is not matching up. Maybe they just don't have a lot of snaps. They were backup, whatever it may be. But that's why I have a ton of respect for the area scouts around the league. They're on the ground. They're figuring all these guys out. All the information they get is so valuable to the end process. And so trying to figure that out is definitely a key part of what I do.
All right, so you're coming here. What's your favorite thing about the Combine? Is it the late nights when you're just out and about in the mix here, getting information?
Besides talking with you guys, I mean, it's
that was a I didn't want to. Yeah,
that was a given, right?
Yeah.
What's the best steak I get? I don't. Maybe that's that's next. You got to have a steak.
What's your number one steak?
It's got to be the cowboy ribeye from St. Elmo's.
Of course.
You can't go wrong. It's they know what they're doing over there.
Yes,
Put it that way.
They got it down to a science.
Even the bread's amazing. It's so good. But
do you handle the shrimp cocktail?
I'm not a shrimp guy, so it's not for me. But I stick to the steak and the green beans and the bread, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
But football related, I think it really is getting the chance to understand where teams are in their process. Because again, after the All-Star season's done, Shrine Game, Senior Bowl, all the scouts, they go back to headquarters and they have preliminary draft meetings. And that's where they all sit down and they go over these players. And the room has an opinion about the player. The area scout has an opinion. The GM has an opinion. And you build your preliminary draft board. And getting a better sense for what that preliminary draft board looks like and feels like from team to team is really fascinating because I think people would be really surprised how.
I was just going to say, how different are they?
Yeah, very different. And, we need to remember, too, there are 320 players here. Draft boards around the league are 150 names. A lot of guys just aren't a fit culture-wise or scheme-wise. And so understanding who specifically teams are looking at is a key part of this, too. And a lot of that happens here at the combine. And, I know the 40-yard dash, that stuff, I care.
It's checking a box.
Yeah,
It's more confirmation, right?
it's a cross-checking exercise.
Yeah.
It's making, hey, this guy's fast on film. Okay, he's fast in shorts and a t-shirt here at the combine. There will be surprises, obviously. Guys run faster than you think, or maybe don't perform up to the level, and you have to go back and figure it out. Maybe he's just not a great tester. Maybe the tape you watched on him in October, he had a hamstring injury. There's so many different factors here with these guys, and it's all about, as a scout, you have to be part investigator, you have to be part psychologist, there's so many aspects of being a really good scout, and here at the combine helps fill in a lot of those spots.
Are you surprised Marvin Harrison's not doing anything, not a pro day, nothing?
No, I'm not too surprised. I mean, his dad did it in the 1996 combine. It feels like every year we make a big deal out of this, but every year it happens where a lot of the top prospects they don't work
But no,
out.
you go do a pro day still. You do
Yeah,
at your school.
I think it's a good example of a player knowing his power. Like I'm going to be a top 5 pick. If you want to
Period.
pass on me at 3, okay, 4 is going to take me. You want to pass me at 4, I'm not falling past 5. So this is a player that understands his worth, and instead of wasting my time training for the 40 and all that, nobody watches Marvin Harrison's tape and says, is he fast? I don't know. He's not. He's kind of slow. No one's saying that. So even the short area agilities, the short shuttle, the 3-cone, selfishly, I want to see him do it because I think he'd be amazing. Really, really big numbers with all these things, but he doesn't have to. And so why am I going to waste my time training for it? It's I think in a perfect world we'd have 100% participation here.
Sure.
It'd be great to put data next to every single player, but it's not realistic. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to be talking about his choice not to work out when he's drafted in April. So
Marvin Harrison is and maybe he's not, but if I'm assuming he's your number 1 receiver this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is he your highest graded receiver since who?
Probably Julio Jones, I think.
Okay.
I think
Okay, so that's a while.
he's got a very similar grade as Jamar Chase did coming out. So Jamar Chase would be the name that it's like, okay, very similar grades. But then before that, we're talking, Julio Jones. Before that, we're talking Calvin Johnson. I mean, the best receivers that have come out.
Generational.
Absolutely. It's just you can nitpick him, but what are the weaknesses? What are the things that are going to hold him back?
Yeah.
And honestly, I would throw Malik Neighbors in there as well. I think there's a razor thin gap between Harrison and Malik Neighbors. Both these guys are.
So if you're in the top 10 and wanted a receiver, this is a good draft for you.
You better be in the top 6 because I don't know just put Rome Odunze in there as well from Washington. If you want one of these guys, you probably need to be picking in the top 7 to make sure you get him. If I'm I'm the Bears at 9, and I'm gonna take Caleb at 1, and then I would love to get one of these receivers to pair with DJ Moore on the outside and really make my offense the best it can be. I don't think I'm gonna get one at 9, so I'm making calls, see what would it cost for me to go up to 7 to make sure I get one of these guys, because you look at it, quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2, 3 most likely.
Yep.
Whether the Patriots pick 3rd or they trade out of there.
Yep.
I think quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3. Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. probably.
Yep.
5's really interesting. I think the Chargers want out of there. They would love. Jim Harbaugh wants more picks. He wants to really build up his roster and his image.
If they could get a receiver that's that good, and then they have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams as free agents, give Herbert a day 1 weapon on a rookie contract.
It'd be hard to pass. But Jim Harbaugh's a different bird. We know that. So
don't say.
he wants to work the middle of the field. He wants a ground game. He wants to build the offensive line. It makes the most sense to go wide receiver there, but I think they're going to entertain trade offers and maybe move back a little bit. And then the Giants at 6, they need an X receiver. So there's a good chance we see quarterback, receiver with the first 6 picks this year.
It's kind of the evolution of the league as we talk
100%.
here with Dane Brugler, and it feels like the top half of the first round, I don't remember it being so offense heavy in a long time. I mean, there isn't that Myles Garrett. There certainly is not that dominant edge. Are there really corners that you go, okay, we got to have them, or maybe one?
I think Terry and Arnold from Alabama, and I'd throw Quinyon Mitchell in there too from Toledo. I think both those guys have a chance to be really good starters in the NFL. And so it'll be interesting who that first defensive player is off the board. Whether that's one of those corners, is it Dallas Turner from Alabama, who I think probably be the first pass rusher drafted.
Yep.
I think a dark horse is Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas. He's going to tear it up this week. I mean, he's 300 pounds. He's running the 4.8s, and he'll be great. Put up 35 reps on the bench. He's a dark horse to be the first defensive player drafted. But where will that be? Is that going to be 10? Is it going to be 12? You're 100% right. This is if you need one of those premium positions, quarterback, tackle, wide receiver, this is the draft for you if you're picking top 10.
All right, Browns. We know no first-round pick again. Last year, well, not. We'll see. Maybe there's a trade in the eye. Who knows? Feels like the last year where we won't have a first-round pick. But first pick is 52.
Yeah.
If you're the Browns, talk to me because you're always very good at this. You pegged Greg Newsome from the get-go back when we used to have first-round picks.
Yeah.
What positions are you really looking at, and then who would maybe be a couple of guys in those positions? So I'll start with whatever you think the first position you're looking at maybe in round 2.
Yeah, it's tough, obviously, because you don't know how those first 50 picks are going to play out.
Sure.
So you have to let the board fall to you. But I'm convinced that wide receiver is going to be a deep position every year between now and the rest of the time. Yeah, it's just how the best athletes, that's where they're going because they want the ball. And if you're not good enough to be a quarterback, and there's only one quarterback in every team, you're going to be playing receiver. And so from peewee to youth football to 7-on-7 to high school to college.
So we're entering a golden age.
Every year there's going to be studs at receiver. And this year, we already talked about the top 3 guys. Brian Thomas from LSU is going to be somewhere in that first-round mix. And then when you get to the second round, a lot of really interesting names. The 2 Texas kids, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, both should work out well here this week. Big fan of Roman Wilson from Michigan, what he brings. So I think depending on what you're looking for exactly, because if you're drafting a receiver in the second round, you're sacrificing something, right?
Yep.
Whether that's size, speed, maybe a little raw, not the best route runner. So, there's a reason he's not a first-round pick. So figuring out for your offense, what are you willing to sacrifice on to get the best player that's going to help your offense? That's something the Browns are going to have those conversations.
Who's your boy, Uno? Yeah, Malachi.
Debo Jr., yeah.
Debo Jr., okay.
Before the catch, he's a receiver. After the catch, he's a running back, man. He is built. I mean, he looks like a running back. He is jacked. But he's should run the 4.4s here. He's got speed, too. He's a lot of fun to watch coming from Western Kentucky because of what they call him the Yak King. And they call him that for a reason, obviously. He's a guy that I think, even though he was more of an underneath player in college, he showed at the Senior Bowl he can track the ball deep. He can be more than that. So, he's definitely in that second-round mix as one of those guys. In my top 100 that I came out with last week, he was like 49 or something. So I think right around that range that we're talking about.
Who of the receivers that you mentioned, or maybe somebody you haven't mentioned yet, that like second or even third round, that's just, well, we need a field stretcher, right? Yeah. We need the vertical, take the top off the defense, a burner. Who are some of those names?
Troy Franklin's the first one that comes to mind, the Oregon receiver. You think about what the Browns prioritize, and he kind of fits a lot of those boxes. He's young. He's going to run really well. He's a more skilled receiver than, say, like an Anthony Schwartz was coming out of Auburn. But at the same time, again, you're sacrificing something, and he's still young in terms of being a more diverse route runner with his route tree. Some of the stuff downfield needs to clean up. There's some Christian Watson there, with what Watson gives to the Packers, who not the most complete receiver, but you want that field stretcher. You want a guy that's going to – defenses have to respect that speed and what that does for the rest of your offense. Troy Franklin gives that to you. So I think he is a realistic option if that's the type of receiver they want to go in the second round.
Defensive tackle is a position I feel like they're going to have to address.
Right.
I mean, right now you're coming in the season with just Dalvin Tomlinson, Siaki Ika. Anybody in that second round that would be you'd be running to the podium to get if they're there for the Browns?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a deep group in terms of interior defensive line, but there are some good names, I think, on day 2. Chris Jenkins from Michigan, who, we know what his dad was.
Sure.
But he's a completely different player. His dad was 360 pounds. Jenkins is probably 295, but he's a really twitched-up player, can rush the passer, can stop the run. He was a part of a really heavy rotation at Michigan, so the numbers, the production don't just jump off the page. But when you see him move, and you see how he can play the run, how when he is matched up with single blockers, how he can break them down and create pressure on the pocket. You see a guy that's ascending and getting better and better. So I think Chris Jenkins would make a lot of sense there. Michael Hall's really interesting, the Ohio State defensive tackle, another guy that doesn't necessarily have the body of work you want, but when he's on and he's healthy, good luck blocking him because he is an explosive guy. So the defensive tackles, not a really deep group, but definitely some names on day two that I think would make sense for this
So
team.
who was the one that came in, was the #1 defensive lineman out of high school? And then,
The LSU kid?
yeah, is that,
Yeah, Mason Smith.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is he good?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much hype for him, and then he tore his ACL in the opener last year, 2022, came back this year, and wasn't quite the same guy. I think third, fourth round, and the other LSU defensive tackle, Mekhi Wingo, he's another really good player as well. So both LSU defensive tackles, third round, fourth round, that's the type of range we're talking for them.
It's just, I can, anything. I don't even, the command you have is just spectacular. It's stunning to watch. Talking, of course, with the great Dane Brugler. All right, so we talked a little defense tackle. We talked about wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it's a deep tackle class. Is that true into like third, fourth round, or is it deep in terms of
It's top heavy.
top heavy?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think we're going to see, maybe 6 offensive tackles go top 20, top 22.
Yeah.
And then maybe a few more even get into that first round. So we might end up with 7 or 8 offensive tackles first round.
Okay.
And then a little bit of a drop off. I'm a big fan of the Yale tackle, Kieran Amageji, but he's a draft and develop guy. Like
Okay.
he's not someone that's going to help you on his rookie season. Offensive tackle Patrick Paul from Houston's another one of those guys who's really long, but he's available in the second round for a reason probably. It's more of a top-heavy position this year. There's some guys you can get third round, fourth round, but not some. It's not going to be a really deep group of tackles at that point.
Any day two, late day two, early day three running backs that you like and think would be a nice fit for the Browns?
That's the sweet spot. I don't know that we're going to see a running back drafted top 50 this year, which I think it's just the second time ever in the history of the league.
Wow.
If it happens, the first time was I think 2016, a couple years ago, when the first running back wasn't drafted till like 56 or something like that. But once you get into that third round, we could see 7, 8 running backs fly off the board. There's
Okay.
a lot of really quality guys. Whether Jonathan Brooks from Texas coming off the ACL is a really talented runner. Trey Benson from Florida State. He's contact balance is outstanding. Wasn't really asked to be the workhorse, but man, when he gets the ball, he makes things happen. Bucky Irving from Oregon's a little undersized, more of a complimentary back, but you pair him with in a committee type of backfield, you've got something. So there are a lot of really quality running backs in that mid third to early fourth. I think that's kind of the sweet spot for the running back position.
All right, last one, and we appreciate the time. It's day 3. You're in the Browns war room. Who is somebody that you are just like pounding the table for? This is the Dane Brugler gem.
My Yale tackle, I think, he's a guy that might sneak into the day 2 because he is so talented. But my Yale left tackle would be someone for sure. Austin Booker, the pass rusher from Kansas. I think the secret's out on him, and he might be going second or day 2 now. But I think Austin Booker from Kansas could be one of those guys. I think someone the Browns would be really interested in because he's young. Yeah. He hasn't played a ton of football, but you're buying low and just watch the ascension with him. Andrew Phillips from Kentucky. He's a really scrappy, athletic player. Didn't have a ton of ball production in college, but you love the traits, and so I have to sacrifice something with him.
Of
Okay.
course.
Didn't have the interceptions, but you know what? I think he's a day 1 nickel and a guy that's gonna make my secondary better. So a lot of quiet prospects that I think teams around here are kind of hoping they stay quiet.
Well, write those down, folks. The great Dane Brugler. We're going to get the Beast. You got to subscribe to The Athletic. You get it as a part of your subscription. That's the best deal that there is. When can we expect the Beast, roughly?
First week in April is always the goal because you want to get
okay.
all the pro day information in there. And those run through all the way through March. But yeah, somewhere in that first week in April. But yeah, if you're a fan of the draft at all in any capacity, this is a must-have for you.
It's
So,
a must-have it because your team's going to draft somebody. You could immediately go and become an expert on them and understand exactly why.
Yeah, what's his older brother's name?
Yep.
What's his where'd he grow up? How many sacks did he have as a freshman and all that stuff.
True story. This is true. I don't know if I've told you this before, but your guide always helps me. So I'm the first person that when we draft somebody they talk to, your guide always helps me.
I love it.
Get a personal anecdote in there that they then can relate to because it is that thorough. You've got it all. So you're a master. At DP Brugler on Twitter. The great Dane Brugler. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks.